Chapter 21. Defying the Lightning. To be exposed against the warring winds, to stand against the deep dread bolted thunder, in the most terrible and nimble stroke of quick cross lightning. King Lear, Act 4, Scene 7. "Captain," called out the first officer, "the ship can make no headway." "What's the speed of the wind?" he asked. "It's blowing 80 miles an hour and dead ahead." "Charge up the magnetic cathode and withdraw the storm wings," he ordered. The officer touched the key of a battery. The green globe at the prow threw off a shower of fiery sparks. The wings were folded in their grooves. The helmsman turned the rudder. The ship wheeled about, head to the wind, and hung poised, swaying in the gale as if held by an invisible cable. "What power is this that holds the ship?" I asked. Immense magnetic engines stationed on the summits of the lofty mountains at the North Pole, 5,000 miles distant, pour their magnificent magnetic currents over the planet and attract the airship towards the north. Similar engines stationed at the South Pole attract the ships in that direction, replied the captain. "They resemble the interplanetary cosmic currents on a miniature scale," said Dr. Hamerville. The ship now began to move ahead, and in a few moments, drawn by the mighty power of the streams, flew like a whirlwind right into the teeth of the storm. "How fast are we going?" I asked. 5 miles a minute, replied the captain. In a few moments, a low murmuring sound arose, which gradually increased to a loud and horrible scream resounding through the cabin. "What frightful noise is that?" I asked. "'Tis the rush of the ship. 'Tis the rush of the ship through the air. She is flying 10 miles a minute." "At that rate she could circumvult the Mars in 20 hours. "Sooner than that, if necessary." The loud scream now gradually ceased, and silence prevailed. "Are you slacking up?" "Oh, no, we're flying faster." "How fast?" 20 miles a minute. Swift as a bullet shot from a rifle. The silence was explained. The sound waves, whose speed is only about 1,100 feet per second, were outstripped in this race and could not reach the ear. Yet, in spite of this immense velocity, not the slightest motion of the ship was perceptible. "Can you fly faster than this?" "Certainly, from 50 to 100 miles a minute, if necessary, but the friction of the air makes the walls of the ship too hot for comfort, and sometimes the deck railing is swept off by the rush." I placed my hand over the metallic walls of the cabin. They were warm as the flue of a chimney. "Theoretically, there's no limit to our speed along these polar magnetic currents," said the captain. "But practically there is, and that consists in air friction. A ship flying 600 miles per minute would become red hot, and at much higher rates would be consumed to ashes by the enormous friction heat, like a falling meteorite. From time to time I saw through the windows great numbers of airships shooting by, almost like flashes of lightning." "They are bound for the South Pole, attracted by the engines stationed there," said the captain. "How do you check off this tremendous speed?" "We withdraw the positive magnetism from the cathode at the prow and change the anode at the stern with negative magnetism. This acts like a brake and checks the ship up." We were now among the storm clouds and immersed in the very heart of the furious tempest. The dreadful thunder peal seemed to split the heavens. The lightning flashes flew hither and thither, illuminating the dark abyss and fathomless gulfs of this cloud ocean with a hellish glare. It is impossible to describe the awful grandeur of the scene. "Is there not great danger of this lightning flashes striking our ship?" I asked. "None whatsoever," replied the captain. "Her magnetism is powerfully antagonistic to the cloud electricity, and she tosses off the thunderbolts as a lion shakes the dewdrops from his mane." I could scarce believe my eyes as, looking through the windows, I saw many of these fiery zigzag flashes aimed by the Storm King straight at the ship. The instant they came near, flew off in tangents, or were dashed into millions of harmless sparks, overwhelmed and crushed by an imponderable foe more potent than they. In an hour, the gale went down, the clouds fled away, and the stars shone in the Martian sky with a brilliancy unknown on Earth. This is owing to the diminished depth and density of the atmosphere compared with that of our globe. Drawn by the magnetic streams we had swiftly crossed Livar Sea and were crossing over the continent of Copernicus, which forms the southern part of Kepler's continent. We flew over mountains, lakes, rivers, and plains. The whole country was illuminated by brilliant lights in countless thousands. At midnight we retired to our cots, Captain Voltano posting his engineers for the night, during which we crossed the storm sea and a part of Kepler's continent, and were advancing towards Angosto Bay running into Tycho Sea, which communicates directly with the Airy Sea lying between Galileo continent and Ross's land as laid down on our Martian maps. We had crossed the equator and were in the subtropical regions of the planet.